Legal Analyst Modidima Mannya joins us now via Zoom to unpack the case so far. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Yes, good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
What's your take on what's played out so far? By and large, are you starting to see what the defense attorneys are trying to establish?
You know, not quite. It's very, very early stages. You know, the witness who's there, his role would be very limited to the crime scene. And I didn't get a sense that I do understand what the defense case, particularly accused 1 to 4, seems to be, that there is a person who they allege is the one who pulled the trigger. But that is as far as it goes. But at the moment, it doesn't really give any clear sense of where this thing is going to.
All right. So what I'm trying to understand and maybe seeing is they're trying to create or put holes in the way that the police managed the case from the first instance, as in when they arrived and how they handled evidence, and the chain of custody seems to be an issue.
Yes, certainly. You know, maybe just to put you at ease, in a trial of this nature, there will be evidence given in chief, there'll be cross-examinations, there will be contradictions, there'll be all sorts of things. But, you know, in the final analysis, the presiding judge is going to examine the entire evidence. It may as well be that in respect of one witness, you have managed to create doubt about the credibility of that witness, but that may not necessarily win you the case or lose you the case, as a matter of fact. So hence I'm saying it's very early stages, and I do understand that the focus at the moment, and because of the witness who's the one who handled the scene, the attempt seems to be to say, let's demonstrate that the scene was not properly managed, or there are things which happened which undermine the integrity of the evidence that is given, or the reports that were given in respect of that incident.
All right. I mean, on the face of it, if there is a problem with the chain of custody, I mean, I don't know what the procedure should be, but it seems odd that a policeman can take a bag of evidence on his own, put it in his safe over a whole weekend, and then show up with this evidence on a Monday. Anything could have happened in between, surely.
Well, look, I think in respect of Sergeant Musia, he has explained that the person who was supposed to log in that evidence and keep it safe was not there. But you may also ask yourself, in the same vein, a question: if you trusted him to collect the evidence at the scene, why wouldn't you trust him to keep it safe? Because in any event, he had to travel from the scene of the crime to where the evidence would be stored. So to use that as a basis for me would be a bit unreasonable.
But
if there is a clear indication that he manipulated the evidence over the weekend, then it's something else.
All right. So there are issues being raised about naming people and saying that Kelly Khumalo fired a gun. Is that allowed? Because the attorney for Ms. Khumalo is suggesting that this is defamation.
Look, our court proceedings, there is a trial. One of the things that the defense is required to do is to put their version to the witnesses. Whether it was appropriate to put this particular version to this witness, I think it's a matter that is an issue of the strategy. I wouldn't have done it because it's not necessary at this stage. But whether that is defamatory or not is a matter that can be dealt with through a civil claim if the requirements for defamation are met. I think what counsel for the defense was doing was putting a version of the evidence that they are going to provide, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whether that is true or whether there will be that witness is what can be determined at the end of the trial or when that witness has testified. For instance, if the witness that you say, I'm going to bring this witness to say this, if that witness doesn't come, it means that that evidence is not there. And probably at that stage, it would become defamatory.
All right. Again, I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert, but I'm quite surprised when questions get asked and the witness is allowed to say no comment. Help us understand, is it the question that's poorly phrased or the law allows for people to just say no comment in a court of law?
Yes, if you remember, when a witness takes the stand, he or she takes an oath, and he says, I'm going to tell the truth, nothing else but the truth. But the rule of law is that you can only give evidence on what you know. Now, if you're asking me a question about something that I don't know, I cannot answer to what I do not know. And I think maybe the witness might be using no comment, but he's basically saying, I do not know. I'm not answering that one.
Okay. So still early days. From what you've heard so far, it's too early to say whether a lot of strong evidence has been delivered yet that is consequential.
Yes, remember, and hence I'm saying it's a very developing story. If you remember, just to take you back, there's been an issue of an allegation that there's a mastermind in one quarter, and that seems to suggest that, look, yes, you may have arrested the right people, but these were just the executors of the plan. The mastermind is not there. So that is one theory that has been propagated. There is another theory now that we got yesterday or so that says, no, actually the person who killed was in the house and there was no robbery, there was no intruder. Then we also now know that there were two dockets. One seems to have focused on the house itself and the people who were there. And the other docket seems to have focused on the accused, which are now here. So hence I'm saying it's very early days. We now know with the evidence that has been given that there's probably a lot of reference into a number of other people. I cannot say to you now whether the witness that they're talking about has already made a statement under oath, whether that witness will present himself or herself, whoever it is. We have also heard that witnesses feel threatened, whatever the cause of the threat or the source of the threat is. So it's very, very early days, I must say.
The other thing that perhaps you can help us, because it does seem very odd and we don't know what the status is, but the issue of two dockets being out there, I don't know if that is even possible. And when you're in a court case, is everything based on a single docket? Could there be possibly more than one docket? How does it work?
Look, I'm not sure about the circumstances which led to the two dockets, but the sense I gather is that there were two separate investigating teams. But what will ultimately happen for a criminal trial to start is that a docket will be presented to the prosecution, who will then take a decision based on what they are provided with. It is also possible that the prosecution had the second docket, but they probably felt that, look, whatever is contained in the docket is not adequate to initiate a criminal trial, whereas in respect of this current docket, which is the subject of the criminal proceedings, they felt that there was at least a prima facie case to initiate a prosecution. So that is what, but generally there should be one docket in respect of one incident. So I think the question of why there are two dockets, or why there were two investigating teams, why there were many changes in the investigators, is a matter that I think probably the police can clarify.
All right, okay. I think we'll leave it there, but I suppose lots to think about over the weekend. But essentially what you're saying is, look, this is early days. Don't read too much into what we've heard. Yes, listen, but don't draw conclusions as early as now.
Yes, you will note that there's a person wearing red robes there. listening very attentively, and that is the person who will ultimately give us the final guidance. So we may have all sorts of opinions. We may get excited about some of the statements that are being made, but that is the person who's going to evaluate the totality of the evidence and make value judgments and apply the law and make a decision. So we may be surprised.
Mr. Mannya, thank you so much indeed. I'm sure we're going to chat again in the coming weeks. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's Legal Analyst Modidima Mannya speaking to us about this case, which some say might be one of the biggest cases that this country's ever seen. Oscar Pistorius certainly was a big case, but here we have a national soccer hero for a big local team, and also the characters involved in terms of other witnesses, also significant celebrities.